Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Getting Real with Paul and Howard. And, we love to do this podcast, especially when we have special guests. And we have a very special guest, Teresa Griffith. And Teresa is out of our Anacortes office. However, she grew up and lives in Oak Harbor, Washington. And so, of course, there is this amazing community on Whidbey Island. The very north part is Oak Harbor. We're just going to dive right in. So first of all, Teresa, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
And so, Teresa, just give us a little bit of background in terms of how are you living on Whidbey Island?
So originally I was born in Colorado, but my mom grew up here and she decided that she wanted to be back where her roots were. So we moved when I was younger. And ever since then, it's been home.
I think so oftentimes, right? You grow up somewhere else, but then you always end up coming back home. And so Whidbey Island is home. It is the fourth largest island, actually, in the continental United States. And so it's not massive, but it is a good size. And of course, on the one side where I am, the south part, I'm in Mukilteo, so you got to take the ferry. But on the north side, of course, everybody is familiar with Deception Pass. And so, of course, through the Deception Pass, you're going to be able to go from Anacortes to Oak Harbor and just have this incredible experience in life. So, Teresa, give us a little bit of insight. What's it like living on an island?
I mean, it really is just as special as it sounds. It is relaxing. You've got beaches at every single turn that you take. There's endless amounts of things to do outside. A majority of the time with my family, we are found on beaches or in the water or in the forest hiking. There's just endless opportunities to connect with nature. And personally, for me, that's really important. I never grew up a city girl. I wanted to get my feet dirty and play in the sand. And that's what we do.
And Teresa, unlike the south part, or maybe like mid part of the island, Oak Harbor is actually a pretty good sized town, right? And there's a military base there. So give us a little insight of, Oak Harbor specifically, where you're very familiar to that north part of the island. What is, kind of life like, the conveniences of living, closer to Oak Harbor in the north? Are you crossing the bridge every day, or how often do you get over to the Anacortes side and, to the mainland, I guess, so give us a little of that insight.
With having Deception Pass be right there, you have the opportunity to get off island whenever you need to. You're not having to worry about the ferry trip. So in that aspect, it's really convenient. But the town itself, you do have a little bit of a bigger town than most on the island, but it's still that small town feel. So you've got a community that's really connected with one another, and that is so important, especially with having the military base there, which is huge for our community. It really helps with the economic impact because we're getting business for our local community and endless job opportunities, not only for the military personnel, but for civilians as well and contractors.
Teresa, so you said your mom was born or raised in Oak Harbor. So does that mean that your grandfather was in the military?
Yes, that is exactly how she ended up being born here. He was in the Navy and ended up staying, which I think happens to a lot of people in the military. You find this little chunk of paradise and you just don't want to leave.
And that means that if you live in Oak Harbor, you call everybody a civilian that's not, and that's how you talk.
Pretty much, yeah, that's the lingo.
How much does the base play a role in the local culture and the community there?
It's really nice having a bunch of people from all over the place. You get culture from every different place and it's all in one area, which exposes all of us to it. And it's just really beautiful to have all these different outlooks on life.
I want to ask you about the airplane noise. So that's definitely can be a factor because we're talking about if you're, this podcast talking to you about if somebody's considering moving to Oak Harbor, what are the things to think about?
So there's definitely going to be disclosures if you're in an area where there is a flight pattern. If you're in an area where there's going to be a lot of jet noise, they let you know. And if that's not something you're interested in, there are areas that you can go where you won't hear it as much. But part of having the Navy base there is being able to support the pilots who are out there keeping us safe. And so for me, it's not a make or break. I think it's a really cool thing to be a part of.
Well, they look really cool, of course.
They do. Yeah, they do.
And Teresa, I mean, so it was basically your mom and then her dad. And I think, so you're now talking about 4 generations. Is that correct? So you basically have your kids as well. And so with that, I mean, tell us a little bit about what's life like for them and schools and community. I mean, some of the details that somebody who's maybe off island thinking about moving, to Whidbey. I mean, give us a little insight to just the school systems and, what your personal experience is.
So far, I only have two of my kiddos in the school system right now. Some are still a little too young for that, but it's been great. They've been wonderful. It's, like I said, a huge deal for me to have kids in an area that I can get them outside. I'm not one for the big city too much. It's fun every now and then, but I think it's so important to get the kids out in the nature and exploring the island and getting to just be a kid. Be a kid while they're a kid. And school system is great for a lot of the field trips. They take them down to the beaches, and they're really good about showing them how to garden and stuff like that, which is huge. I mean, it's just huge.
So Teresa, I mean, basically, you've known the island for so many years, but give us a little insight. There are a lot of people, probably especially since COVID, right, who are curious about moving out there. What's internet like? I mean, are you finding more and more people? Are there just retirees? Are there people actually working just at their companies and then commuting? I mean, what's that been like?
So it's a mixture of all of it. There's a lot of people who look at Oak Harbor as a place to retire, and there is 5 months supply for houses over $1 million. So there's lots of opportunity for you to shop around and pick that house that is right for you. Whether you're retiring over here, you want a second home that's going to be a rental opportunity for you, you've got a lot of choices in that area. With it being spring and things are starting to pick up within the $500,000 to $750,000 range, we're seeing things go a lot quicker.
So over $1 million, there's selection. Yeah, in that mid-price range, it's a hot market in Oak Harbor. When I think about the Oak Harbor general community, so you have kind of the suburban kind of developed areas that have built out quite a bit. You still have a lot of opportunity for homes on acreage, and then of course beaches, so waterfront and water view properties. So there's kind of a little bit of everything out, in the area. You have Anacortes, and which is become more and more expensive. And Oak Harbor kind of being similar in some capacity, where it's an island community that you can drive to, and splits off from Deception Pass, but it's a little bit more affordable than Anacortes, right? So that would probably also play a role.
Yeah, most definitely. Not only is it a little more affordable, but there are more opportunities for you to get a home with land on, which is a big deal. If you're wanting property, you have a lot of options here. And there's a lot of property for sale that you can build on.
That's true. That's a good point. And you, unlike a normal island with ferries, because you can drive on, you don't have that same issue as far as getting contractors to actually help you build.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a perk to have that bridge right there.
And I think that my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in Island County, I'm not sure about in the city limits of Oak Harbor, but I know in Island County, you see a lot of modulars and manufactured homes being built on acreage. So you could get potentially relatively affordable land and then place like a manufactured modular home. I believe that's still, I don't know about in the city of Oak Harbor, but I know on the outskirts you see a lot of that.
Yeah, on the outskirts for sure, you do see that a lot, which is a really nice option to have for a little bit more of an affordable option for people, who still want that land and that nice home, but gives them the freedom to kind of make it cheaper and make it what they want.
There are so many people on the mainland who, honestly, they have a lot of equity. And so, you just said there's selection. There's like 5 months supply, over $1 million. That's huge, actually, because, in so many other parts, for $1 to $2 million, there's still not that much inventory. So people could either sell, maybe, or those who are able, maybe they go buy a second home. Maybe they rent it out for a while. I mean, so give us a little insight. Are you seeing people kind of do that in the luxury space where they're buying ahead of time, or, they can even rent it out? Are Airbnbs also an option out there?
They are. Airbnbs are also an option, but there is a lot of that going on where people will buy it and rent it out as well. Then it just kind of supplements that income for them, gives them the freedom to be where they are and still have that second home that they're making an investment on. And that's huge. There's a lot of investment opportunities in Oak Harbor that people take advantage of, and it's important to do.
Well, and with we talked about with land opportunities, with the new ADU law passing, where you could build up to 2 ADUs on a property. And you're right, in Anacortes, it's even more confined. So there's very limited acreage opportunities. You're right, in the Oak Harbor general area. Once you get over that Deception Pass, you kind of look out, and before you get to town, you drive for like another 20 minutes, and it's still quite rural. I'd imagine that there's possibilities to buy, let's say, an existing fixer home or older manufactured home on acreage, or land, and but then build 2 ADUs, and maybe even on a water view property.
I would completely agree with that.
The nice part is there are a lot of options, and people oftentimes will just drive through Whidbey Island and they don't actually spend the night. I think once you actually spend the night, so my wife and I, we spend a week on Whidbey Island, even though it's literally 20 minutes away from us. We spend a week because it truly is the closest thing to like feeling like you've really gotten away. I mean, we used to like kind of go all the way to Cannon Beach. Now we just go to Whidbey Island, and there's just so many great places to stay, whether it's a south part of the island, Langley, of course, there's the Langley Inn down there, kind of the, north part, Coopville, of course. Then you kind of could take a day trip over to Port Townsend, on the ferry, just, by walking on. There's just so many incredible activities, to do on Whidbey Island. And it's like, anybody who even visits, you need to go over there and just spend the night, spend a few days. And you get to see like, wow, I could live here, I could work here, I could raise a family here. Our whole entire perspective of real estate, can change when you start to look at, communities like this. And again, it's just not that far. It's not like going, all the way out to the coast. It is just so close by.
Let's say somebody's going to make a day trip out there or an overnight trip out there. Of course, task number one is to reach out to you for any really real estate questions and to see property and all that kind of thing. But is there a restaurant? What if you had a day trip, somebody coming into town, there's like, these are the 2 or 3 things that you got to go do, or a place you got to grab some food, or a beach you got to check out. What are a few things that somebody's coming into town that you'd recommend?
First and foremost, you need to go down to Deception Pass Beach. You need to see Deception Pass from down below. Get out and explore. Find some sea glass, some shells. Just hang out and enjoy nature. That whole trail down to Deception Pass Beach is just so beautiful. You feel like you're just in a whole nother area. The forest is so fun to be in here. Next stop, get some food. Go to town, get some food. We've got a ton of good restaurants to choose from. We've got El Cazador Mexican Grill in downtown Oak Harbor. Next door to that, there's Flyers. You've got a cute little couple of restaurants down on the main strip that you can go to. At coffee shops, we have a lot of coffee here. Just explore the town. Take time to get out of your car, walk down that main strip. It's so calming and just a cute little area to get out of your head and get in where you are, which is such a good thing to do. We all need to do that every now and then. Just get out of our own head and enjoy what's in front of us. And then if you're planning on staying on the island and you're going to have time to explore down on the south end, one of the most amazing things that happened to me when I first got here, I got to see whales. And it was up close and up front, and it was down in Langley, which Village Pizza, you got to check them out too. And it was just such an experience that I will never forget, having like 5 or 6 of these beautiful, massive creatures right in front of you. And it's just something to remember and something you won't forget.
Anything else, Teresa, that you want to share, just about real estate, life on the island, things that a lot of times people just kind of don't realize, that they ought to know if they're ever thinking about moving out to the island?
I think a really big important thing to note is that Oak Harbor gives you a little of everything. So you've got the luxury homes, you've got the farmland, you've got the classic, homes that you want your family to grow up in and raise your kids. And it's just really important to know that there's a little bit of everything there. Look at your options. Don't pass it by, because it is such a beautiful place to live. And to raise a family there is something extra special.
Well, hey, everybody, we just want to thank you so much for listening in. And if you are just, thinking about a possible move right outside of the city or something, a little bit further out, but, Whidbey Island Oak Harbor, you know, the entire island, it's just one of the places you have to visit. If you're from the area and you've never really spent that much time there, it is well worth doing. And unlike, you know, the south part of the island, especially during the summertime where you might have a 2 or 3 hour ferry wait on the weekends, up in Oak Harbor, you've got Deception Pass right there. So you're just taking the bridge. And it is just an amazing opportunity. If you have any real estate questions, curious, you want to do a tour, please reach out to Teresa as a local expert. You always want to go with somebody who is the hyper local expert for real estate. So Teresa, thank you for all of your insight. We're really excited, of course, to be helping our community members learn more about Whidbey Island, in particular, the north part of the island, Oak Harbor.